Sorry I'm late today. I had to catch that verdict. Not that it was a surprise, but wanted to see it. An issue had come up. Somebody asked me about their child. And when I say child, I mean this was, in the case I'm talking about, the person that asked me, it was a teenager. But wanted to know about should they let their teen be interviewed by the police as a suspect in a crime.
Chester Smith.
And so, of course, I said no, because it's the same as if your child, this teen, is an adult. You would not want to speak to investigators without the presence of an attorney in any type of criminal investigation. And I've said that multiple times. And the same would apply if it's a minor who's going to be suspected of criminal activity. My answer would be no, I would not let them speak to the police as a suspect without the benefit of having an attorney. I had another question from Cody asking if after completion of a felony deferred, can he possess a firearm? And as I've talked about before, it's a very complicated answer, and I would need to know more about the felony and the timeline. And depending upon the felony and how it was exactly pled and what the terms of the deferred were, you have to then look under a federal statute to make a determination of whether he is an exception or a person who is excluded. So the answer sometimes is that under state law, you can be in possession, but under federal law, you cannot. But I need specific information to try and make those determinations. I can't do it just on broad questions when you ask me a specific question like that. I've got some questions. Most of the questions I got this week were on drug possession. It looks like someone has commented, but for some reason they're not showing for me. Anyway, let me get on with the questions I do have. Can drug charges be dropped? And so, yeah, every time I have a new topic, someone wants to know, can that case be dismissed? The answer is always yes. Maybe we find something that the officers did incorrectly procedurally. Maybe it was an illegal search. I mean, there's so many things. A funny one, at least it's funny to me, is sometimes we find people that think they have a substance, let's say cocaine. That's a good one, because I have a case in federal court right now where everyone involved in the deal thought it was a heroin deal, and it turned out to be tramadol. But every once in a while, we'll get one where someone buys what they think is a controlled substance, and it turns out not to be. So yes, obviously a drug case, drug charges can be dropped. And then, so someone asked the same question, only wanting to know, can felony drug charges be dropped? Obviously, the answer is yes. We've got a question of how do you beat a felony charge? Again, every case is different. And so when you say how do you beat any charge, it depends on my investigation and what I find. Sometimes it's something that the police did or didn't do. There's just so many procedural things that could happen that it's hard for me to say, you know, what it might particularly be in your case until I'm in your case. It's hard for me to make that, you know, determination. Okay, here's a good question that I can't answer. Is possession of a controlled substance a felony in Missouri? So I don't know Missouri law. I'm licensed in Texas and only in Texas. So I can't answer that. However, generally speaking, I can tell you that in every state. Meth, coke, heroin, all the big ones are felonies in all the states. But any question specific to Missouri, I wouldn't have any idea. I got a similar question for Arizona, and again, I'm only licensed in Texas, so I can't really answer those with any authority. Which drug carries the highest criminal penalties? It's going to be the penalty group 1 drugs, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, but it's all going to depend on the quantity. As I said, I think in a previous video, if you have over 400 grams of a penalty group 1 substance, that can make you a 15 to life case. And so it would be fact specific, but obviously it's going to be the penalty group 1 drugs, the hardest street drugs, are going to be punished the hardest. I'm trying to go through the questions and weed out the ones that, really aren't worth our time. Kind of an odd question. What is the minimum punishment for possession of controlled substances in Texas? And if it's a misdemeanor, so if you have a misdemeanor controlled substance, the minimum is going to be no jail time and a fine. Again, that's if it's a misdemeanor, because misdemeanor punishment is, Class B, 0 to 180 days in jail. Class A, 0 to 1 year in jail. Here's an interesting question as well. What happens if you get caught with drugs and a gun in Texas? And I sort of have 2 separate answers, but they both sort of merge in a way if you think about it. So in state law, under state law, the gun's not going to add much of an enhancement as far as the charges go. It's a separate charge. The reason it is important, though, is a lot of times the parole board will look at that on a prison sentence, and on a nonviolent drug felony, generally speaking, parole eligibility is after 1/4 of your sentence, right? So if you got a 4-year sentence, you'll be parole eligible in 1 year. However, if the parole board takes that gun into consideration, they may treat you, I said may, they might treat you as if it were an aggravated offense and make you do at least half of your sentence. Under the federal system, the gun definitely adds to the punishment. Depending on the way you get charged on the possession is how it will affect you, but it is definitely going to up your punishment in the federal system. You are absolutely going to do more time if you have a gun with you. So another question is, how many grams is a felony in Texas? And to answer that properly, I would have to know what substance you were talking about, because of the penalty group 1 substances, even less than a gram is a felony. It's a state jail felony. So you can have less than a gram. Technically speaking, you're going to have more than about 0.04 grams because at that point, if both sides do testing, there may not be enough left for a charge. So, residue in a bag is going to be enough to get you to a state jail felony. Now, if you're talking about lesser drugs, I would have to know which drug, because then we would have to know the weight so we could determine. But if you're talking about Schedule 1, cocaine, meth, heroin, all that, even less than a gram is a felony. This is another one that we hit, on all topics. How long do you go to jail for drug possession in Texas? And, the answer's maybe you don't go to jail. A lot of people don't go to jail for drug possession. It's going to depend on the case. It's going to depend on the circumstances, but no criminal history, you're certainly going to be eligible for probation. So there's not a how long do you go to jail for drug possession in Texas. Is possession of drug paraphernalia a misdemeanor in Texas? It is. It is a misdemeanor. And no one, well, I've never had anyone. Possession of drug paraphernalia can be a Class C. I mean, it's not a big charge. Can you get probation for a felony drug charge in Texas? Absolutely. We do it daily. Can a felony be dropped to a misdemeanor in Texas? Yes. Again, something we do very regularly. Can you travel while on probation in Texas? This is a great question. So the answer is yes. Depending upon which court you're in and what the terms of the original probation were, you may have to get permission from your probation officer first. If your probation officer will not give you permission, your attorney can file a motion to get permission from the court. It's going to depend on what you want to travel for. I've not really run into a lot of restrictions on travel for probationers that I've had over the years. Probation generally likes to work with people and be as accommodating as they can, unless they think someone is being abusive. How do I check my probation status in Texas? I don't even know. I'm not sure what that means. If you're on probation and you want to know your status, I guess ask your probation officer. That's kind of all I have today. There was, looks like I have some comments, but for some reason, it's not letting me see them. So those of you that commented, if they were questions, I'll have to put them for next week because, like I said, it says I have 5 comments, but I can't see not a one of them. Let's see. I'll have to figure it out. Sorry, I don't know what I did wrong when I set it up today, but I cannot see. It says I have 5 comments, and I can't see any of them. So if they were questions, I'll get them after I close this screen, and I will take them up next week when I see y'all on my live. Sorry I was late today. I wanted to watch the Derek Chauvin verdict. And as you know, he was guilty on all 3 counts. So, all right, y'all have a good week, and I will see y'all next week.